Lee Anderson squared off with Yvette Cooper the other day, praising the British boat that helped to rescue migrants caught in the channel and took them back to France. There was also a French boat that was doing the same thing. The British boat just happened to be in the area in French waters. And Lee Anderson's claims that he'd been speaking to migrants who had told them that if they encountered boats that captured them and took them back to France, and they'd give up trying to get to the UK. It's a tall story, and it doesn't ring true. Lee Anderson is telling one of his whoppers, and I don't think it's the only whopper he's telling. The entire Reform UK in Parliament is really one great whopper, isn't it? This obsession with pushbacks, which was something which was put forward by Priti Patel, but I'll come to that, is a doomed and failed policy that can be traced back to Greece. Greece is still doing pushbacks. The Greek pushback policies have led to significant controversy, tragic outcomes in the Mediterranean. There was even a BBC documentary called Dead Calm, where the Greek Coast Guard were filmed, and they're implicated in the deaths of at least 43 migrants between May 2020, May 2023. But I know this policy was ongoing in the early part of the century. And I've spoken to people in boats that have been peppered with shotguns, with machine guns from the Greek Coast Guard, and yet we gave the Greek Coast Guard senior power in Frontex to police the Mediterranean and the border, particularly the marine border area. The pushbacks involve forcing migrants back into international waters, often in dangerous conditions, and in some cases migrants were then abandoned in dinghies or thrown into the sea, literally thrown into the sea. And this results in fatalities, and someone has to take responsibility for that. Most of the egregious incidents have taken place around the islands in Greece, but I think things like the Pylos shipwreck in June 2022, where over 600 migrants died. The Greek Coast Guard's involvement in this disaster was heavily criticised, with allegations that they attempted to tow the vessel, causing it to capsize. In the UK, the former failed Home Secretary, Priti Patel's attempt to implement similar pushback policies faced similar resistance. In 2021, Patel proposed measures to turn back small boats crossing the English Channel, but this faced legal and practical challenges. People threatened to go on strike in the Border Patrol. Border staff threatened strike action, citing the policy as illegal and dangerous. And furthermore, both the Army and the Navy were reluctant to participate in such operations, reflecting broader institutional and ethical concerns about a policy which is utterly abhorrent and inhumane. The Greek government's, and not surprising that it's being recommended and encouraged by Reform UK, the Greek government's handling of migrant pushbacks and the resistance to similar policies in the UK, underscored by wise and principled individuals across the system, not by Reform UK, it underscores the complexities and the humanitarian issues involved in managing migration. The calls for more humane and lawful approaches to asylum highlights the need for policies that prioritise safety and respect for human rights. But the first thing that we need to do is to get the Home Office actually functioning, get off its backside, start to process the applications, clear those migrant hotels, and identify who is and who is not an illegal migrant. Because I think we'll find many of the people in the hotels are legal migrants, have a case to answer, and the reason for keeping them in hotels is to stimulate this chatter that we've got thousands of illegal migrants dotted around the country, and it's simply not true. What we've got is a lack of safe and viable routes for migrants to follow in order to claim asylum, and therefore they are they are forced, as Suella Braverman acknowledged on the 22nd of November 2022 to Tim Lawton. The only way to claim asylum in Britain is to cross the Channel in a dinghy and then claim asylum on the other side. But she stopped that, of course, with the illegal borders, illegal migration act, and her three acts, her three bills, all of which were designed to support her solution to this problem. We may agree with the problem. We may not necessarily agree with the solution. And in the case of Suella Braverman, Priti Patel, and Reform UK, they only have one solution, and that's vicious. And vicious, by the way, is simply from the noun vice. It's the opposite of virtue.